Mm. Hello people, welcome back to the channel. And I'm Ahmed. I'm Ahmed. Um, it's not Ahmed because England for the world champions, which shouldn't be, but they are. They're playing at I don't know what to call it, but they're playing terrible. They can't eat. Oh, they bat well. They can't bowl. That they need bowlers. They need to find bowlers some way. And Batu get into it. But South Africa, for the first time in about 7 years, 8 years, complete a series one over England. And what a feeling it is! What a feeling it! Beating the old rivals, England, especially in the fashion we did. But yeah, before we get into all of that, Manny, how are you, bro?
Well, what can I say, son? Credit where credit is due. You boys absolutely handled the conditions better. You handled the pressure better. And although it will be said that we are missing a few key players of the squad, including a few players from our T20 champion team that should be in this squad, it's still no real excuse. And we've lost five consecutive ODIs on the trot. Not the best way to defend our trophy. And we will need to try and find some answers. If Jofra Archer is fit to be in the squad, there should now be no reason why he doesn't play the final game at the Kimberley Oval, because England can ill afford to go away from South Africa with a 3-0 whitewash. And in terms of our batting, at least it's an improvement on the first game, where after a
Yeah,
wonderful opening partnership from Jason Roy and David Milan, our middle order just crumbled. This time around, our middle order, including our number 3 Harry Brook and our captain fantastic Joss Butler, stood up to be counted. Our bowling at times was just toothless, and we need to search for the right combination which will really do well in Indian conditions. And all I can say as well as this is thank the Lord for Adil Rashid.
yeah, but that yeah, it was a long one, but you have to take positives out. So you set one of the highest scores ever at the um, oval, oval, and batting wise, you guys were it weren't too shabby. Batting wise, nice your metal order did their job. If we look batting wise, openers still looking for Jason Ryan, David Malan some to get something, and Ben Duckett. Your top order needs a few works, but Mohan Ali, Josh Butler, Harry Brook, they were close today, and they carried your innings. But yeah, and that partnership of Harry Brook and Josh Butler basically just took it away. Um, but yeah, if we look at the fall of the wickets, of course, in a power play, you lose Jason Roy, and David Malan. Then, in a good partnership between Duckett and but Brook and Jason Roy, what a partnership! An incredible partnership between you two. I think it was around. Yeah, it was at the 16th hour, 82 for free. Next time I look, it's the 21st over, and you're 130 odd. Odd, and I'm thinking, how have you managed to hit so many runs in such short space of time? But those two were exceptional. Be happy South Blue Terrier, happy South Bro. Um, but Adil Rashid, well, bowling wise, you guys are good. Um, I think maybe you also have to look at the selection of your team. Chris Wokes, especially the bowling. If you look bowling, Ollie Stone, Reece Stockley don't have much experience. Um, but you look bowling wise, you guys were all right. Weren't that good. Look, nobody except one Ali who bowled 4 overs got less than 40 considered less than 40 runs. So that's a big concern for you guys. But for me, I wouldn't be too worried. From an England perspective, because you lot always deliver. You may be terrible in the qualifiers, then as soon as it's crunch time, you guys do it. So, um, but you most likely you won't want to it. But does Ben Stokes still play the ODI or not anymore?
Well, here's the thing about Stokes. The door is still, in theory, open for him to join the squad, but I would actually prefer it. With the World Cup coming up later this year in January, about to be over, if England decide that they really want him back, he needs to have at least a month or two of time in the ODI setup so that he can, really get to grips with this.
Yeah.
And I'm under no impression, no hallucinations that he will just walk back in or he will accept an offer to be allowed to walk back in, because it's a little bit like Argentina saying that if Messi wants a place in the 2026 World Cup squad, it's his. The type of competitor and the player he is, he wouldn't want to accept that form of charity. And Ben Stokes, not that I'm comparing Ben Stokes with Lionel Messi, but he's no different. Of course, if you take a look at the bowling of England, credit should be given to Ollie Stone. In fact, 10 overs, one maiden, 2 for 48. He does have some potential, but certainly the other seamers, Wokes and Topley and Sam Curran in particular, were quite expensive. I did say thank the Lord for Adil Rashid, because despite being expensive, he actually bowled well in patches, and of course he was key in many ways to both our limited overs world championships. So it's a question of actually being able to find that right combination of bowlers who will be able to do well in India. And to my knowledge, the Indian tracks, of course, will be spinning tracks. So obviously, Rashid will still have a role to play, despite being a little bit expensive here. And we're going to need to make sure that we all have a good left arm spinner as well, who can be quite incisive. We had someone like Monty Panesar, Madhusudan Singh Panesar, of course, who um, certainly was at his best when it came to bowling on subcontinental conditions, whether it was in the UAE or in India and Pakistan. But obviously, with Graham Swan doing so well, he was never really given that much in terms of consideration. And now, in terms of left arm spinners, I mean, Jack Leach has been doing well for England's Test team. Could he possibly be blooded in? The secret to winning a World Cup in India will be the mastery of the conditions. And although England did reach the final of the World Cup in 1987, when Mike Gatting was reverse sweeping everything en route to taking his team to the final, it still wasn't quite enough to prevent Australia from pipping us to the post by 7 runs. It is about the conditions, and even with the batsmen as well. You mentioned, of course, how Harry Brook was able to stand up and be counted today. In the first ODI, he got a duck. So even with the batting combination, we also need to have a decent combination of players who can be explosive and also some middle order batsmen who can be circumspect and not play any rash shots. And I think, as much as I am proud of Joss Butler for the way he played today, I think he has to look at himself in the mirror and see that the shot he played off, admittedly fine ball from Anrik Norche, was the shot which pretty much cost England their chance of pulling that win out of the fire. And of course, the margin would suggest that had Butler stayed around and not played that shot, things would have been different. I know that if Ifson Butler sweeps us, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But you know, it's all these fine margins. Jofra Archer, in fact, did play in the first. Uh,
Yeah, he played in. I was surprised you guys left him out. That time, I'm saying like the lineup choice was a bit weird because Stopley, um, what Stoke, Ollie Stone, sorry, um, bit weird. Wokes, I get Wokes, but for me, it doesn't really suit your type bowler. So I was surprised by those three starting. Um, but again, England, we know what you guys bring to tournaments, but if if you continue on this form, never know. Maybe Graham Smith will be sacked before the World Cup, especially in the ODIs, of course. Um,
Graham Smith.
it's not Graham Smith, Brendan McCullum, the coach.
Well, here's the thing: McCullum actually coaches the Test team, so is the former Aussie batsman Matthew Mott, who's coaching the limited overs sides.
Oh, okay. So Graham Smith, Brendan McCullum, same thing.
Yeah,
but no,
McCullum was short. McCullum was much shorter than Smith, you know that, and
yeah,
McCullum was right-handed.
yeah. But yeah. And now let's talk a bit about South Africa. Just going to smoke you a lot. Um, but it was worrying at a stage, of course. Got you got rid of the cock, fair play. Um, then a brilliant partnership between Russia Fernandez and Temba Bavuma. Um, and then there was a slight scare um, as we lost um, the quick wicket of Russia Fernandez and Temba Bavuma and Russia Fernandez in quick succession. And he was like, maybe England have now a chance. But Heinrich Klaassen and Aidan Markram came in and said, no, we're not letting this run. Then Heinrich Klaassen, he went out. Not a bit of a scare. You were thinking, South Africa, there's still about 100 to go. Loss of Klaassen. We all know Markram Miller. We all know sometimes they can't, or Miller, as a bad game you're there. But those two just ran the show and took us home. Of course, Markram eventually um, with bold, bold, bowled by a beautiful ball from Adil Rashid. And, but other than that, Miller, Janssen, both exceptional. And me and you were talking off after the tennis stream about Samuel Bavuma. And saying that we need a new captain, and I still think we do need a new one, because he hasn't really been firing cap under captaincy of it under the captaincy, but as it were, without it. S- But what a knock! Brilliant knock, and I was like, finally, finally, it it's done. It's done something finally, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him. Gutted for him how he lost his wicket angry, giving his wicket cheaply away, but magnificent way. Him and Rush Van Dissen just took the game away from you. And 109, that's give him confidence. But I want to focus on this. So it's Africa, or us, we need to beat you all 3 times and beat the Netherlands 2 times. Then we avoid the qualification phase. We qualify automatically for for the World Cup. Now, I want us to take the next game seriously on Wednesday. I want us to take that game seriously, because why not? We got the form. Don't just go out and play some youngsters. Because if, if we can and qualify because it should be the Netherlands. Let's not mess about. If we lose against the Netherlands, there's serious questions need to be asked. But if we can do a 3-0 sweep of England at home, that's big. That's big in the first place. And that basically means we have qualified for the World Cup already. Now, I know, of course, the Netherlands isn't easy team, but it's the Netherlands. Like, come on. um, I think just go all out. Uh, let's just do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's make it free now. Let's show the world what we can do. But yeah, you go on. On
Yeah, starting with Bavuma, I mean, it just goes to show that the commentator's curse has struck again.
Yeah,
And, there's not that much to dislike about Bavuma as a batsman. He's a throwback to very short openers with low centers of gravity who definitely have the ability to read the bowling very well. A little bit like a certain Sachin Tendulkar in his pump, who, of course, is shorter than me. I have to get that in. Cheap shot, but it has to be mentioned nonetheless. And obviously, I think the way he was able to apply himself and blunt the seam attack, which was quite frankly toothless, with both Topley and Wokes conceding runs left, right, and centre. I think the reason why Archer was dropped was because harsh decision maybe, but Butler obviously saw it fit to try and bring Archer back into the cauldron that is South Africa ODI series, and in that match back, he conceded 81 off his 10. But who's to say that Archer wouldn't have, had a role to play over here with his express pace? And we all know how influential he was in our World Cup win in 2019. And of course, he was coming back after an injury. So when you make a decision like that, when you know how good a bowler he is, you don't just discard him because he hasn't had the best of games. But credit to Bavuma, certainly had played the seamers very well, and he basically his knock sort of laid the foundation. Credit also should be given, as you mentioned, to Erasmus van der Dussen and Aidan Markram, and of course Klassen chipping in. But when you take a look at someone like David Miller, who's been around the block for quite a long time, and you all know has a reputation, and rightly so, as a very explosive batsman, given his exploits in franchise 2020 cricket. He's obviously brought that back to the ODI format, and it can only be of good news for South Africa. One area of concern, though, it must be said, is when we take a look at your squad, a large number of your players are, in fact, in their 30s. The only difference of ones under 30, of course, are your bowling all-rounder Marco Jansen, Janneman Mallon, your top order batsman, who I don't think has played so far. Markram is still very much in his 20s, 28, of course, and should be earmarked as a future captain, as are Ngidi and Anrik Nortje, Kagiso Rabada. But those are the only few. And so you will need to obviously improve your form. And I think it might be important more than ever that you beat England in the third match, which is why I believe England should take this third match as well seriously, because as I said, they can ill afford to go away from South Africa with a 3-0 series loss and their tails between their legs. And they still, in my opinion, have to search for that right combination of players who can take them further. And injuries can happen, of course. You know, our T20 squad was affected by Reece Topley being injured, but Topley also hasn't exactly shown that he's worthy of being completely considered. So once the series is over, England will have some work to do. But as for South Africa, yes, if you are able to beat England and obviously beat the Netherlands, you will need to make sure that you do well, because in the current league standings, you are behind Pakistan in fifth, England in fourth, New Zealand in third, Australia in second, and of course India in pole position. Of course, when it comes to ODI cricket, you know that India will guarantee a full schedule of games. But I think there is some hope for South Africa. But you know, it's all about being able to make sure that you have the best and better combination. And personally, I think if I were to choose between Keshav Maharaj and Tabraiz Shamsi, I'd pick Maharaj, because Shamsi, for me, as a left-arm Chinaman, looks to be a little bit too erratic. I don't know if he is able to bowl a consistent line, whereas Maharaj can always be counted on to play a more economical role and is also a decent lower order batsman. And sometimes you've got to be in a position where, hopefully, with a much more improved talent pool, you'll have better, decent, more fitting players to pick from, while also being able to match the quota system. But of course, performances also have to be key. I'd definitely like to see South Africa go all out, but England also will need to take it seriously. But, you know, hopefully South Africa will avoid qualification, because, you know, as we've seen in the T20 World Cup with the West Indies crashing out, potentially a World Cup without South Africa would be a poor tournament, because in as much as you haven't been able to win, you certainly provided some terrific cricket in practically every world championship. And it's just been a case of a few freakish choke-like results that have hurt you. And I'm sure that when it comes to playing the Netherlands, if you never ever see Roelof van der Merwe wearing the orange of the Netherlands again, it will be too soon. Eh?
Yeah. I think uh, we but yeah, like you said, uh, our squad is on the older side. Um, but I think of the new T20 series thing they got going, we should be able to master up and get some stuff going,
Hmm.
having some new players. I mean, but yeah, good. So far, it's been a good victory. I mean, for us, and like you said, we should do the we should go all out and same for England, play for pride. Um, but yeah, uh, I think to end it, we should just talk a bit about Um, of course, um, we should just talk about um, how how can South Africa defeat England in the third match.
Well, I really don't know. If that, don't think you have much to do with regard to changing your lineup per se. I think it's fair to say that every single member of your squad who has played has certainly played a more than decent role. In fact, when I take a look at this bowling lineup for the second ODI, the likes of Norche, Ngidi, Parnell, Maharaj with his spin, I'd stick with this one. It might be tough on Magala, who was quite impressive in the first ODI, but sometimes you've got to consider which bowling combination will really give you the edge that you need. And of course, having to choose between Ngidi and Rabada will obviously be a very difficult prospect. But you're in an envious position where, with regard to your fast bowlers, you've got some very healthy competition right now. Ideally, when it comes to the fast bowlers, if I were to go by form, I wouldn't really consider playing Parnell, except that maybe a left arm seamer would be advantageous. And yet, when you take a look at the likes of Topley along with Parnell, the left arm seamers so far in this series haven't had too much in terms of joy. And also, let's not forget David Willey. So I'd like to see Parnell being given a rest and maybe one of Rabada and Magala brought in. If you have to play a spinner, it's Maharaj over Shamsi. And as far as the batting is concerned, if it isn't broken, just don't fix it. You've got a good top six. Certainly, David Miller, Klassen, and Janssen coming in can provide some pyrotechnics. Van der Dussen and Markram have shown that they can definitely drop anchor and make sure that they play as well as they can. Bavuma, certainly near the end of the T20 World Cup, Bavuma showed that he was getting back into some semblance of form, only for the Dutch to upset the apple cart and make their own apple pie in the process. But yeah, I think, as I said, just drop Parnell and bring either Rabada or Magala in, maybe Rabada with his experience, and Maharaj for Shamsi as the spinner, and you should be well set. As for us, well, I mean, the batting seems to be a little bit okay, except for Duckett not really being able to capitalize. Of course, as 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 fate might have it, he could end up doing really well in the third ODI. Brooke, of course, recovering from his duck in the first match to drop anchor and score 80. Joss Butler, Moeen Ali keep their places as batsmen, although Ali has not been penetrative. It's been really interesting to see how well the South African batsmen have played spin. Although it must be said that when it comes to spin, Adil Rashid is really the only potent weapon, whereas Ali is supposed to keep a tight line, but will always be threatened when it comes to subcontinental or even South African pitches. So we're still searching for the right combination, and we need a good left arm spinner if we can get one. Could we entice Jack Leach to come and play in that team? I don't know, but it's looking good for South Africa. And as for England, we've got problems to solve and questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, I agree with your thing. I think drop on now. And I would also say um, yeah, drop on now Radaba or Makala um, and keep with Maraj. I think both both on their day can be good, but Maraj has been the better one out of them. Um, um, so yeah, but if there's nothing really else to add, I think, and it's yeah, and yeah, I will do Royal Rumble reactions slash Raw preview tomorrow. So yeah, tune in for that. So That's it. We'll see. Follow me on my socials there down below. So, peace.